In Psalm 31, David expresses his praise to the Lord for the great amount of goodness that God bestows on those who fear him. Those who will trust God and seek refuge in the Lord will find a treasure of goodness stored up for them. Verse 20 says that God keeps safe those who take their refuge in him. Let's read verse by verse and understand. Verse 1, In you, Lord, I have taken refuge, let me never be put to shame, deliver me in your righteousness. In this opening verse, David expresses his deep trust in the Lord as his refuge and source of protection. He earnestly prays that he will never be put to shame and seeks deliverance from the Lord's righteousness. Verse 2, Turn your ear to me, come quickly to my rescue, be my rock of refuge, a strong fortress to save me. David implores God to not just hear his prayer but to turn his divine attention to him. He urgently requests God's rescue, likening him to a solid rock of refuge and a strong fortress, a place of safety where he can find salvation. Verse 3, Since you are my rock and my fortress, for the sake of your name lead and guide me. Acknowledging God as his rock and fortress, David appeals for divine guidance. He asks God to lead him and make his way known for the sake of God's own name, emphasizing the importance of God's reputation and character. Verse 4, Keep me free from the trap that is set for me, for you are my refuge. David entreats God to shield him from snares and pitfalls set by his adversaries, relying on God as his ultimate refuge and protection. Verse 5, Into your hands I commit my spirit, deliver me, Lord, my faithful God. In this verse, David echoes a sentiment later expressed by Jesus on the cross. He entrusts his life and spirit entirely to God, reaffirming his faith and trust in the Lord's faithfulness. Verse 6, I hate those who cling to worthless idols, as for me, I trust in the Lord. David expresses his disdain for those who worship false gods or idols. In contrast, he emphasizes his unwavering trust in the one true God, the Lord. Verse 7, I will be glad and rejoice in your love, for you saw my affliction and knew the anguish of my soul. David rejoices in God's love and compassion. He acknowledges that God has witnessed his suffering and understands the deep emotional anguish he has experienced. Verse 8, You have not given me into the hands of the enemy but have set my feet in a spacious place. David praises God for not allowing him to fall into the hands of his enemies. Instead, God has provided him with a secure and wide-open space, symbolizing freedom and safety. Verse 9, Be merciful to me, Lord, for I am in distress, my eyes grow weak with sorrow, my soul and body with grief. David humbly pleads for God's mercy, acknowledging the distress he is enduring. He describes the physical and emotional toll it has taken on him, including the weakening of his eyes and the deep grief in his soul and body. Verse 10, My life is consumed by anguish and my years by groaning, my strength fails because of my affliction, and my bones grow weak. Here, David vividly portrays the intensity of his suffering. He describes how anguish has taken over his life, leading to years of constant groaning. His affliction has sapped his strength, leaving him physically weakened. Verse 11, Because of all my enemies, I am the utter contempt of my neighbors and an object of dread to my closest friends, those who see me on the street flee from me. David reveals the social consequences of his predicament. His enemies have caused him to become an object of contempt among his neighbors and a source of fear for even his closest friends, leading people to avoid him in public. Verse 12, I am forgotten as though I were dead, I have become like broken pottery. David laments that he has been treated as if he were dead and discarded, likening himself to a piece of broken pottery, a symbol of insignificance and fragility. Verse 13, For I hear many whispering, terror on every side. They conspire against me and plot to take my life. David is aware of the whispered conspiracies and plots against him. He senses the pervasive fear and threat that surround him. Verse 14, But I trust in you, Lord, I say, you are my God. Despite the overwhelming challenges and adversities he faces, David's trust in the Lord remains unshaken. He firmly declares his faith, affirming that the Lord is his God. This detailed exploration of the first 14 verses of Psalm 31 underscores the depth of David's emotions, his unwavering faith in God, and the challenges he faces in his life. It's a powerful testament to the human experience of suffering and the resilience of faith.